Welcome, have a seat.
Oh, you okay, babes?
Very good, very good. Here we are. Another day, another episode.
A bit wonky. No, we're all right.
No, you're good.
We're fine. You know what I'm like. It's just anxiety levels, isn't it? Make sure everything's working.
Yeah.
We are another idea.
A podcast for creatives and entrepreneurs.
We just want to level up their business.
Yes,
and
yes,
just
yes.
be inspired and hear stories and take value and little nuggets of information and just be helped a little bit and just giving them that little bit of insight that might just change their business a little bit.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
So
if you're here for the first time, welcome. And if you don't mind, it would be amazing if you could click, share, subscribe.
Shout it out.
Yes. We'd love to hear your thoughts about us. Yeah, is that right?
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, no, just do all the sharing things. It's like it's really appreciate. We see and appreciate everybody that does share it. So thank you. There are some people that are diehards to do it every week. Like, please don't ever stop. It's amazing.
That's it.
But yeah, we just need more people to do it. So thank you very much. And if you could leave a review, amazing. Please do.
Yes.
Are we okay?
We are okay.
Yeah. Have we got any house admin to cover? Is there anything that we need to cover off?
No, I think we just want to jump in.
I've got to make your bed for tonight, haven't I? You're staying over. You're staying in Derby. I've still not managed to convince you to buy a house up here yet, but I'm working on it.
Slowly, it's happening.
I am working on it. So
you're doing a good job at
you're staying in my brother's. My brother lives 5 doors down, which sounds a little bit mad, really, but it wasn't planned. He just does. He just owns a house 5 doors. So he's got his spare room going. So you're there tonight.
Yeah.
And then tomorrow you're in the studio again.
Yeah, at the Docker Inn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what are we doing tomorrow?
Tomorrow we'll be recording some videos for a course on how to create a podcast. And yeah, super excited about it.
Yeah. Because it's like the next little stage, isn't it?
Yes.
Next part of the journey.
Yeah.
The process.
And yeah, it's going to be a good one. So yeah, cannot wait. But that said, today we have the amazing Stacy Oakley in the house.
Hi.
How are you?
Stacey. I was going to say Stacey.
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 Probably a good time to mention that Oakley isn't actually my surname anymore.
No!
Oh! Yep. Westhead is the...
That's a strong surname.
Do you think?
Yeah, Westhead.
My husband doesn't. I always say I downgraded my surname when I got married. No, Oakley was my maiden name, so but stuck with that. Why not?
Yeah.
It makes the word so when I've got my initials, so it was much better. So yeah.
But thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
I think you are gonna bring a lot of value. Not putting pressure or anything like that.
But much pressure.
SEO is one of those things that when people hear about it, they can be very much like, I don't even know where to start. But yeah, it's one of those things that I think that doing my research and looking into you, you got so much to say about it. So yeah it'll be amazing. But that said, though, tell us a little bit about you, what you do.
Okay, I'm Stacey. I don't know where to start really. I left university in a while ago, 2005, and I went to work for a media agency. I did maths at uni. I don't know why.
Wow, that's brave.
Yeah, it was hardcore. I didn't want to do anything mathsy. And so I got a job at a media agency doing digital marketing.
It's amazing how people do that, though, isn't it?
I know.
Get into a degree they don't really want to do.
I wanted to do drama, but my dad and my teachers were like, you're really good at maths and not many people are, so you should go and do maths. And I just
does that still do you reckon that still happens now? I know, like, I'm sure, like, generations that roll through, they probably... People probably still say the same thing, and parents push their ideas on their children, don't they?
I actually hate it. I'm really jealous of people that did a course at uni and they were like, "Oh yay,
I love it.
I've got a lecture." I was like, "Oh god," like literally like dragging myself there. But it was the fun side of uni that kept me there. I think meeting my husband in the first week, that was fun.
It's fresh as wheat.
Yeah. I know. Seems so long ago. So yeah, came out of uni, didn't want to do anything mathsy. My best friend worked at a media agency at the time, and she was like, "Why don't you work in a media agency? Because it's a really good bridge between uni and real life. Everyone's really young. There's loads of parties. You get taken out for lunches. Like it was really cool." So I moved to London, got a job at a media agency. doing digital marketing, mostly paid ads, so AdWords, Google stuff. And then my boss there said he was going to...
That's the official line, is it? Google stuff.
Google stuff. but it wasn't SEO at that point. I just did a year of basically writing PPC ads.
Yeah.
It was pretty dull. And then my boss said that he was going to set up his own agency in 2007. And he asked if I would go with him. So it was just me and him. I mean, I was only a year out of uni, so I was pretty fresh. And that agency did all sorts of digital marketing, mostly SEO and PPC. So that's where I sort of learnt about the SEO back then. And then
what do you think made your boss sort of like, hey, Stacey, do you want to come and... you must have had certain attributes that or something that he saw in you that to kind of like take you away and go in that venture.
So he always said that I had that magical mix of being quite creative, but also being really comfortable with numbers. Obviously, the maths degree came in a little bit useful there. And also just sort of the right attitude, sort of can-do attitude. He always spoke about one instance where he asked me to do something, and then the next day he was like, have you done it? And I was like, of course I have. I did it yesterday. And he was like, do you want to tell me you've done it? And I was like, just assume I've done it. If you ask me if you ask me to do something, assume I've done it. So I also, to be honest, I was probably quite a cheap option because I was only a year out of uni. I wasn't on like super high salaries. And then we basically grew that agency to about 50 people.
Wow, amazing.
And I sort of remained his sort of number two during that time. He didn't hire ahead. I just sort of grew as the agency grew. And then I got pregnant, and I was the first person in the company to have a baby because everyone was really young. Everyone was like early 20s, and I was sort of 30 at that point. And it was really hard having a baby in that sort of industry and in that space because everyone is so young and they don't understand, and you're like, oh, I need to go home at 5 o'clock to do the pickup, and they're like, oh, what, we're all going out for drinks. And then you just get massive FOMO. And then that agency got bought by a global agency, and I was slightly screwed.
And you became a millionaire?
No, I was slightly screwed in that process. Because I wasn't working full time, so my share allocation was docked massively, which, having started the company from scratch, was
shitter.
Yeah, that was a shitter. But we were on a 2-year earn-out period, so I sort of hung around for 2 years. And at that point, I had started learning calligraphy. So I'd started learning calligraphy in sort of 2016. My dad had just died. I had a very young baby, and I was like, I need to do something for me, something creative. So started learning calligraphy, and then just started doing friends' weddings and then their friends' weddings, and then thought I could actually do this as a job. So I'd been thinking about that, got furloughed during COVID from the agency job, and I was like, okay, now's the time to try and make this happen. And then I quit as soon as the earn-out period was done, and I got not my millions, but some thousands. I was like, right, I'm just going to leave and work at home and be at home with the family. I think COVID did that to a lot of us, made us realise I don't want to commute anymore into London, and I want to be at home. And we got a dog, didn't everyone? So did that, was doing the stationery, and that was all good. And then I was basically doing a lot of networking, as you do in the wedding industry, and going to styled shoots and events and different things. And when I was meeting people and they were saying, is this your full-time job? Is this your side hustle? I was like, oh no, I also work in SEO and PPC. And everyone was like, you do SEO? And I was like, yeah. And everyone was either like, I don't know what that is, but I know I should be doing it, or no, it must be really technical, or oh no, SEO, I can't be doing that. And I just, after a while, I was like, I feel like there's something here. And then January 2021, I was chatting to one of my calligraphy friends. I'm in Lou's coven that she spoke about a while ago. So I was speaking to one of those girls, and I was like, I think I'm just going to set up an Instagram account, and then I'll just put tips for people on it. And I I was like, I just want people to engage with SEO. I should call it So Engaged, because then it works with the So Calligraphy. So I just randomly, it was just a real whim, like set it up one night and told a couple of my friends. They shared it on Instagram. And then within a few days, I had like a few hundred followers, which I know it's not huge, but it felt like a massive deal. Like to me, I was like, oh, wow, there's something in this. And I started sharing tips. And then quite quickly, people were contacting me like, can you do some SEO for me? So I was like, oh, okay, I need to put something together. And then Faye Cornhill from the Wedding Business Club, she contacted me and said, oh, I see that you've got this Instagram page. Can you do a module for us on SEO? And that was, I think, in the February that she contacted me, and she wanted me to do the April module. And I was like, shit, I need a website. I need a logo. I need to actually look proper.
Yeah.
So it was like a 2-month dash to get a website up.
Nothing like a good deadline to get things going.
Yeah, it was good. I needed it. Yeah, I needed that kick up the arse really to get it done. And then I did her April module, and I've been fully booked since with people. And now it's just really nice because it's sort of growing organically. People tell that, you know, in the wedding industry, that's sort of how it works.
Yeah.
And
everyone knows everyone.
Yeah. People are having good experiences with me and telling their friends, and so
ultimately getting results, right?
Exactly. And I think it's not just about, because I don't work with people on a monthly basis. I sort of audit their websites and give them sort of a batch of recommendations and say, you know, do these things and you'll be at a really good level, but then here are the things that you need to do moving forward. So it's a combination of training and sort of doing a bit of it first to sort of give you a leg up, I guess, on there. So yeah, and it's worked well. I've done a few courses with mixed results. So
yeah.
But I think people just are really time poor, and I think they want to learn about it, but they also just need some done for them, which I think is why the audit works.
And I think with SEO as well, it's hard to see quick results, isn't it?
Yeah.
Whereas you look at like the world of Instagram and TikTok, and people kind of getting a huge reach very quickly off something that they just like put together in 20 minutes.
Yeah.
You know, actually, SEO is it is much more of a long-term game, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I was working on my calligraphy site for probably 2.5 years before I got to, so I now rank number 1 for wedding calligraphy, and I rank number 1 for learn calligraphy in Surrey and those sorts of keywords. But it takes like a lot of time. And even like the clients that I work with where I do some of the work for them, I'm like, this isn't SEO done. Like this is getting you to on the first step. And then these are the things that you need to do ongoing.
Before we get into like the world of SEO, like just the idea that you've set this up off, you said like off the back of a whim.
Yeah.
I just think is really admirable straight away. And it's again, just being able to recognize that there was something there, like you had a skill set, like, you know, you had the tools already in your sort of arsenal to be able to kind of go, there's something here, I'm going to act on it.
Yeah.
And we talk about it so many times, don't we? Like, it doesn't matter what idea you have, if you don't take the action, it's never going to go anywhere.
And the thing is that a lot of people were saying to me that they weren't technical enough. And that was always really sort of hit home for me, because I am not technical at all. Like my laptop crashes, I'm like, I just don't do tech. I don't do code, but I can still do SEOs. And if I can do it, honestly, anyone can do it. It's just about having the confidence. I think for so many years, we've almost had it like drilled into us that it's something we can't do. Yeah. And you absolutely can. You can do it. Yeah,
it is true. It is true. SEO is very much seen as this sort of like three-headed beast that sometimes people get daunted really by the fact that, I don't even know where to start really. Yeah. But where would you start?
So I think, first of all, it's about knowing your audience. It's a lot of strategy stuff, like know your audience, know the sort of things that they're searching for. So there's some really cheap/free tools out there that tell you what people are searching for. There's a really good plugin called Keywords Everywhere. It's like a Chrome extension. And when you Google something, it tells you underneath how many people a month Google it, and it tells you the seasonality. And on the right-hand side, it tells you sort of related keywords. So knowing the things that your customers are searching for. Yeah. But not just picking the one that like has the highest search volume, but also thinking about, is it relevant to you? Like if you're a documentary style photographer, like, do you want to be ranking for something that's not that?
That's like it's like the hashtags in Instagram, isn't it? It's like, oh, I'm gonna tag photo of the day.
Yes,
because that's gonna get me. And whereas you could be like, you know, more niche down, like lace wedding dress. You know, that's the difference, isn't it? Right?
Yeah. And then once you know the keywords that I'm going to get technical.
No, let's go for it. No, let's just
go for exactly what we want.
Step by step.
I suppose this sounds like, already before we get into it, this is like the homework phase, isn't it, of SEO? And like doing the groundwork and understanding, like if you're going to put time and effort into this, which you're going to have to do, you need to know that you're going down the right road, don't you?
Yeah, exactly. And knowing the keywords is sort of like a first step. And then also understanding, so this, a lot of people sort of can't get their head around that. So I'll use my calligraphy site as an example because it sort of works really well. A lot of people think that their whole site has to be optimized for all the keywords, all in one go. The way that I approach SEO is I see every page on your site as a potential front door. So for me, my homepage is just generic calligraphy stuff. And then I've got my wedding page that's optimized for wedding calligraphy, and that's the page that ranks for wedding calligraphy. And then I've got my workshops page, and that's optimized for learn calligraphy, because people don't Google calligraphy workshop, they Google learn calligraphy. And so every page should be targeting a different set of keywords. So then once you've got your whole list of keywords, you then have to map those keywords to
makes sense.
That example you've just given there is a prime example, though, isn't it, of doing your homework?
Yeah.
Because you could have just gone, oh, I just need to rank for calligraphy workshop because that makes sense.
Is what I do, yeah.
But that's not what people search for.
No.
And that's the key differentiator, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. And then once you've mapped your keywords to the pages, so you then have to have a lot of wedding businesses, they might have like a home page, a gallery page, a packages page. That's normally it. And you're like, you need more content than that. Like Google, I was going to say Google isn't psychic. That's a weird thing to say. But Google needs to see words. It needs to get context. It needs to understand. So you could have the most beautiful site with the most beautiful imagery. If you've got no words around it, Google's not going to have a clue. So you need to get writing, either yourself or get a content writer in to do it. And then it's all about just all the technical elements that go into that. So you need to make sure that for each page, you've got the keywords in your title, you've got the keywords in your headers, you're using the keywords in your content. Both staring at me like
no, this is amazing. This is amazing.
Okay. And then once you've done all of that, you then have to get other people to link to you, which is the really difficult bit, really. And that's probably one of the most important things, one of the most important ranking factors that we call them, is getting other people to put a link on their site that links through to your site, because Google sees that as a recommendation of their site to yours. So, and it's much harder to manipulate, which is why it's so important. I was saying to Igor before we started recording that, you know, SEO has a history of like being really manipulated, and people trying to rework the algorithm and go,
I
right.
remember, God, when did I start this business? 2011, 2012, I think I bought 1,000 backlinks from a farm. Yeah. You know, you could do,
but it used to work.
But then it was genuine. Like it wasn't seen as like illegal. Well, it wasn't a crime or anything. It was just like a lot of people did it. Yeah. Yeah. But then Google obviously clamped down on it, and then they punish you for it. So you learn very quickly in the SEO world, don't you, that like if somebody has a quick solution for you, or there's like a short-term gain here, like my general approach is to be very cautious. And because of that only ends up providing you with a long-term pain. Yeah. You know,
and also anyone guaranteeing you, I can get you to number one for this. You're like, no, you can't. Or they say, I can get you to number one for something, and it'll be like a random really niche long tail keyword that you wouldn't get any traffic from anyway, even if
one of my favorites is always getting like those SEO inquiry forms where they're like, oh, I've been through your site and found all these faults, and then at the bottom it says, how did you find me? Google. Okay, yeah, great. Yeah.
I get them on my SEO site. I get those like, we've looked and we think your SEO could do with some work, and I'm like, wow, this hurts.
What are the sort of common mistakes that people make? What are those traps that people fall into that you see kind of on a regular basis?
not writing enough content, thinking that their images will be enough, having really big images that slow down a site. Photographers.
Yeah. Why? Can you just explain why that's vital?
Google wants to serve sites that give users a good user experience. And if your site is full of huge images, it's going to slow down your site and users are going to be annoyed. And if they're annoyed with your site, they're going to probably be annoyed with Google for serving you that site. So Google prioritizes sites that are quick and mobile friendly, and massive images are not either of those things.
Yeah, if your website isn't mobile friendly in today's age, like, you're instantly you're at the bottom of the pile, aren't you?
Exactly. I mean, to be honest, most people that I speak to are using like a Squarespace or something, which are fine for mobiles anyway. So, but yeah, big images, no alt tags on images. So easy to add an alt tag. I mean, if you haven't done it and you've got a whole site full of hundreds of images, an alt tag is just, it's really what screen readers use to understand what an image is showing. So the visually impaired will use alt tags. It will read our website and then it will say image of this thing. But it's another opportunity for you to put your keywords in there. So if your page is about wedding calligraphy and I'm showing an envelope that's got a calligraphy address on it, then I should write calligraphy in there because that's part of my keyword. And yeah, it's just mainly not having enough content is the main thing. I mean, I could go into very technical header issues.
Yes, please.
So if you're not from an SEO world and you're using a Squarespace or a Wix or a WordPress site, when you're writing your content and you have headers, you sort of highlight over them and then you can choose what sort of class of header to have. So you have like header 1, header 2,
H1, H2, H3.
Yeah. If you haven't got an SEO hat on, you just pick the one that looks nicest in that space because the headers are sort of related to your formatting. But you should only have one H1 and it should be at the top of your page, because if you think about if you were writing an essay or something, you would only have one main header. It makes more sense.
One title, yeah.
And then underneath that, you can have your H2s and H3s. But so many clients that I work with have like 5 H1s on a page and I'm like, it just doesn't make sense. Like it looks spammy. And a lot of it is about common sense. Like quite often people are like, right, how much content should I have on a page? Like, is there a magic number? And there's really not. And also, if there was, it wouldn't be that number for very long. So you'd just constantly be chasing an algorithm that's always changing. So I always try and say, put your Google hat on. Does it look like an all right amount of content for Google to understand, to add value to your users? And anything that you do, I always say that, like, did you think Google will like that? Do you think Google will like a header that's like half a page long? Probably not. Looks a bit weird.
I think people always fall into that trap, don't they, as well, of trying to tell Google that this is what they want to see, but at the cost of the end user.
Yeah.
So one thing I talk about in my workshops and stuff is about like just remembering that people are going to read this.
Yeah.
You can't trick the system.
No. But also Google wants sites that are good for users.
Yeah.
So if you think of the user first, I mean, you have to do a little bit of manipulation, flash a bit of shoulder, I sometimes call it, to Google, so that it does know. I was working with a bridal dress boutique, and she said, we don't call our dresses dresses, we call them gowns. So all their content was about wedding gowns. But users don't Google wedding gowns. They Google wedding dress, vintage wedding dress, lace wedding dress. So I was like, you do have to change some of these because Google can't see the word dress in there. And it's getting smarter. It will start understanding that gown and dress are similar, but you're definitely making your life more difficult if you don't put the words.
Yeah, you just put yourself further down the back of the queue, aren't you? And
yeah,
we all know we don't really dive into page 2, 3, or 4 of Google search, do you?
No.
You rarely go on to page 2.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I can't remember what the first question
was.
I've just gone on a technical tangent about header tags.
Common mistakes. That you see.
Oh, also, titles and descriptions. So these aren't seen on your web page. They are seen on Google. So when you Google and then you see the listing and you've got your title and your description, loads of people don't write description tags, which doesn't actually impact SEO in terms of where you rank, because Google the description was one of the areas that people were manipulating. So Google doesn't actually look at your description tag to work out where it's going to rank you. But users will read your description tag when they see a whole page of results. So a lot of people will just put their title as their brand name and not say anything that makes them jump out at the page. So, if you've just got your brand name, people don't know who your target market is, what your specialist area is. Whereas if you write that in your title tag and you write it in your description, because people don't just see you, they see you and 10 other listings, and you want to make them want to click on you rather than
you want to set
else.
yourself apart, really.
Exactly. So your title and description is kind of like your SEO ad. Probably shouldn't throw the word ad in, because then people get confused between the paid ads and the organic ads, but
makes sense.
The organic stuff.
Yeah, I think if you know that's an area it's like marginal gains, isn't it? It's like a tiny little thing. You could avoid it and still probably get hits, but if you can just convince people just that by that 1% over other people just to kind of click on yours, like the compound effect of that is that Google sees people clicking on it's not just that one person's clicked on it. Google knows that one person's clicked on it, they've stayed on the site.
Yeah.
So that's a positive sign, isn't it? And then it's just repeating that, then it ranks better because it knows that people are clicking on that link and they're getting the value that they want. Studio Ninja, Igor.
Here we go.
Yeah, I'm off again. But I just wanted to talk about one more thing, because I think, and I'm not here to criticize one of our sponsors, but I think they're missing a trick.
Ooh, shots fired. Tell us what you're thinking.
It claims to be designed by photographers for photographers, which it is. It is designed by photographers for photographers. So I'm not arguing that. But it's not just for photographers.
That's it. So much
I just
more.
think it's for anybody that's in a service-based industry. This piece of software is invaluable. I've had friends that are MUAs, hairstylists, florists, stylists. You name it. I've had them all reach out, and I've given them sort of guidance and setting them up that have gone on to use Studio Ninja and like, this is invaluable for our business.
Yeah.
So if Studio Ninja are listening and watching this back, might want to think about who you're targeting it to, because actually I think they're missing a trick. I think there's a whole market out there that you don't just need to be a photographer or a videographer in the wedding industry. If you are a service-based industry and you've got clients or couples, whoever they may be, and you need to book people in, you need to send them automated emails, invoices, the system and the software is there for anybody to use in whichever business they're operating in.
Yeah, get Studio Ninja.
There you go. So what's the discount code, Igor? You should know it by now, because I've told you a few times.
Let me see.
I wonder what it could be.
I'm guessing. I'm joking. It's another idea. It's that simple. So if you go to Studio Ninja, type in that at the checkout, and you'll get 50% off for the whole year, and you'll get the first month free.
You get the first month free, and then another idea gets 50% off their first annual subscription.
There we go.
There you go. Sorted.
Go get it.
And every year in the sort of ranking factors that are sort of posted by sort of big SEO tech companies, engagement factors are getting higher and higher up. So Google will see, so if you're in position 8 and you're getting more clicks than the company that's in position 5, Google will bump you up, because it will see that you're obviously more relevant, because more people are clicking on you and you're getting a higher than usual click-through rate, they call it. And Google can also see if you go onto a site and then you click back immediately, sometimes underneath it will say, do you want to exclude this result from future searches? So Google knows that you've clicked and just gone straight back, i.e. this page was a bit rubbish. So it can see that. So you want to get them clicking on you, and then when they're on your site, you want to then get them to engage with you, to show Google that you're a good.
And again, this is where quick loading images, relevant content that's going to serve the purpose that they've searched for.
Yeah, immediately make it clear what you do as well, because a lot of people miss that. They just start.
God, people are going to be busy listening to this episode, aren't they?
Yeah.
If you're driving whilst listening to this episode,
stopping their cars and making notes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there anything Google can't see?
Well, images. Even they'll probably be doing that soon. But yeah, a lot of people also don't have Google Analytics or a version of Analytics on their site. So they're sort of working blind. So they don't really know how many people they're currently getting. I would say 90% of businesses I work with, I say, have you got Google Analytics? And they go, yeah, I don't look at it. I don't know how to use it. So just spending some time in that is also
Even if it's just to see where your traffic's coming from.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And, you know, whether you put a piece of content out on it, I didn't used to dive into it too much, but just knowing that you've created content, you've pushed it out to social channels, you've seen people come into your site because of it. It kind of it justifies the exercise and the time, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Because you actually can see the result then.
Yeah, definitely. And especially if you have conversions tracked as well. So if you can see, you know, I got 10 visits from Instagram and 2 people filled in my contact form, or, you know, I had 100 visits from Instagram and no one filled in my contact form, then you can start understanding the value of your traffic as well, because a lot of people just think it all comes from Instagram, and it might not.
Yeah, true. Making those correlations is quite important. You mentioned Squarespace and Wix previously. Is there any sort of like platform that you found works best in terms of SEO, in terms of help? Or
personally, my favorite is Squarespace. Mainly because Wix has some, I mean, Wix used to be like a do not use Wix. Yeah. It's so bad for SEO. Obviously, Wix had to work on that. Otherwise, they were quite quickly not going to have a business. The main thing that upsets me about Wix, because actually the interface is really, like, if you don't know anything about web design at all, the interface is like super easy. The thing that upsets me most about Wix is Google likes sites that are thematically structured. God.
This is great. Please.
So if you think about like your folder system on your Mac or whatever, you don't have, unless you're like a total psychopath, you don't have everything saved to your desktop. You'll have like, you know, clients, and then you'll have client folders, and then underneath that you'll have, you know, invoices.
Yeah, things are
everything's
stacked.
folders. Yeah. So Google likes sites like that. So you might have, you know, / wedding gallery, and then after that you might have / and then a couple's name or a destination or whatever you want to put it. Wix, it's really, really difficult unless you know coding to do that. So Wix sites to Google look flat. Like every single page looks, it's just on a / and then the name. So that's annoying. WordPress is great, but it takes a little bit more know-how to use WordPress. Shopify, I hate. I can't. I mean, I have worked on Shopify websites, but a lot of the time I need to have a developer to help me sort of hack to add text. It's very product led rather than being useful for an SEO point of view, which is great if you just want to sell and be on Google Shopping and that sort of thing is fine. So yeah, Squarespace would probably be my... Yeah,
Squarespace, we've used it, haven't we, for our website. I've done one for the studio, and it ticks all of the boxes, doesn't it, really well?
Yeah, it's a goodie.
It's really easy to use, drag and drop. And
I'd love it if they sponsored us.
I was just thinking, sponsorship.
They'd be a great sponsor for us.
Great episode for it.
Love it. Has anyone come to you with like I've done this thing and I think I'm in trouble? Like, has anyone done anything really like naughty with their SEO before? Any horror stories that you can kind of tell us? That
not in the So Engaged. It's normally people are just very at the beginning of their SEO journey. But I've had clients in the sort of corporate world that a lot of them come and they've bought a shit ton of links and Google. I mean, we bought links back in the day because it worked, and you're under a lot of pressure from your clients. They're like, we need to be number one, and you're getting paid to get them there. So you're like, okay, it's worth the risk actually to buy some links. And then I actually had it Christmas Eve one year. Our top client, who I was saying to Eagle, spent £1 million a month in Google.
Wow.
But they could only afford to do that because they were also number one for SEO. So they were getting sort of 50-50 traffic from that. So it was sort of working out for them. And we had been number one for this keyword for like years. And then Christmas Eve, Google updated their algorithm, did what they call the penguin update, which basically said...
I remember that one.
If you
I
buy
genuinely
links,
remember that.
If you buy links, you're out. And we dropped to nowhere. It was like the worst Christmas present ever. And we were all just sort of sat in the office like, fuck, like we're going to get fired. We didn't get fired. We turned it around quite quickly. Added a load of content. You can call, if anyone out there has bought links, you can do what's called a disavow file on your Google Search Console, where you just say to Google, ignore all of these links. So we did that.
I mean, that's of all the dirty tactics, that's probably one of the least dangerous ones. Well, it's not recommended, but I can remember back in my day when I had a previous business, we employed a company, and they were doing, I didn't realise until we left the company, but they were putting white text on white backgrounds and all those kind of tactics that just put words in without you even having to see the words, and it's like you get punished for that very quickly now.
Yeah,
it's a thing
that's why it never really pays, I don't think, to chase an algorithm.
Yeah,
like it's
absolutely.
Always, even with like Instagram and anything, like if you're chasing an algorithm, you're always going to be like chasing your tail. Whereas if you just think, right, what do my users want?
Yeah,
what makes sense and is sensible. I mean, you have to think. I mean, it's not just all about users. Like if I think about SEO and how I'm going to get more links that other calligraphers might not have, you know, you sometimes have to like dig deep. Like I found, it sounds really cringy, I found like a mumpreneur site, and I was like, fuck it, just going to contact them, see if they want to do a profile on me. Got myself a nice link to my site that not many calligraphers will have. So it's about, because it's easy to get links from like a styled shoot, but everyone's going to have links from a styled shoot because everyone's doing styled shoots. So it's trying to work out where you can differentiate yourself and get links that no one else.
It's worth explaining as well, isn't it, that different sites have different authority as well. So you know, if you've got a link off the BBC website, that carries a huge amount of weight.
It's my dream.
God, we just had Ryan in, didn't we? He works for the BBC as a TV. We could have been asking him, couldn't we? But you know, that versus your mate Sally, who's a baker and has only just launched a website, that value and rank isn't anywhere near it's comparable. But that's not to devalue that link. You can still get those links.
And also thinking about the words that are being used to link to you. So if it's just, you know, your URL, it's not adding any context.
Sam Docker fraudster.
Keyword spammer.
Whereas if I have, you know, wedding calligrapher that's linking through to my site, then that's better. I mean, it's not always, you can't sort of go to the BBC and say, hi, BBC editor, can you please change that link so that it has different words, because it would really help my SEO. But if you're doing, you know, a guest blog post on your friend's site or on a wedding planner that you know's site, then you can always say to them, please, can you use these words? It'd be a big deal for me. And also, but if you can't change the words that are linked in the word, is looking at the words around the link. So whenever I do a styled shoot, the person who's submitting it, either the photographer, the planner, or whoever, normally just puts stationery, so calligraphy.co.uk. So I started saying to them, actually, could you just change that to say like stationery and calligraphy, or wedding invitations and calligraphy, and then a link? Because Google will, like, it makes sense, right? That Google will be looking around to see what other keywords are around that link. Again, it's just like, well, yeah, if I was Google, I'd do that. And, you know, so, changing the words that are around it as well.
I think part of what you talked about as well is just that awareness of just being able to kind of having to reach out to people.
Yeah.
And to try and identify sites or places that you can go and seek a backlink.
Yeah.
And recognise that you might have to do a bit of work for it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know, no one's just going to do it for nothing. Either you're going to have to pay for it, or you're going to have to create some content.
Yeah.
And you've got to just put that time in.
Yeah. And SEO and PR are so intrinsically linked. Like if you've got a really good sort of PR or outreach strategy, you know, local news sites, they want content. And if you've got something, you know, if you're a stationer and you're seeing more people asking for, you know, recyclable or seeded paper, you know, the lifestyle editor somewhere might be quite interested in that. And then you become the authority that they then quote about it. And, you know, it can be, you know, building relationships, but it's trying to always think about the link, even if it's not, it doesn't feel like an online opportunity. Even if you're chatting, get you guys to, you know, vlog, add a link. Cheers. You know, anything you do, really, you should be thinking, can I get a link from this? And will it be a link that none of my competitors have? Because that's where the sort of magic happens.
How valuable can YouTube be as a part of an SEO strategy?
Very important, especially if it's for keywords where Google decides to put videos up. So a lot of how-to keywords tend to be.
It always seems quite overlooked, doesn't it? YouTube, as part of SEO, because it's, I think we all think SEO is like, I've got to write stuff, but actually we all know from being on Google that you can search for a lot of things, and the first things that come up are videos.
Yeah. Videos, images, making sure that your images, I mean, I'm guilty of this, but your file name when you upload it onto your website, like IMG, all of those things, making sure that that's right, making sure you have your images in folders, and the folders have got a nice theme, to a name for each one. Again, making sure they're not massive, to sort of help. So
you can see that what we're in. We're like 38 minutes in already, and you can see why people probably find it overwhelming, because there's a lot of things to think about. But I suppose the point is, like, you just have to break each piece down, don't you?
Yeah,
just
that's it.
Put yourself in the position of the user, recognize that what Google's trying to do, and remember why Google's trying to do it.
Yeah.
It sounds like it, and especially the way you have explained it. It's you explained it very much from a human point of view. It's literally quite relational.
Yeah.
So it just really makes sense when you actually explain it, which is nice to hear. We did mention YouTube there, but social media platforms, do they affect the SEO on a website, or not so much?
Well, if you've got the social platforms, then obviously they're going to rank in Google. If somebody Googles your brand name especially, then they are going to rank, which is good. I have this theory, which is not really backed up anywhere. But
I like those kind of theories, though.
You heard it here first, people.
Sam might want to just like put his fingers in his ears right now. I have a real issue with Linktree, like the link thing.
Yeah.
Because if somebody links to your social media page and Google sees that link, and then they see your social media page, but you're not linking that directly to your website. This sort of the chain is broken there, and Linktree get benefit from that. Whereas
what you would recommend?
It's gonna change my.
Whereas if you just what I do is I just have a page on my website which is /useful links, and then I just put that as my link in my Instagram
Linktree's
page.
going this afternoon.
Yeah.
Sorry, Linktree.
No, that's really good.
Not
That's really
be a
good.
sponsor.
No.
And I think
It makes sense, though.
Yeah, it's the sort of again, just from a human point of view, and the way you explain it, it makes sense.
Yeah, it's just like an extra barrier. And if you've got a blog post and you put it on your Instagram, for example, and someone wants to click through, they can see the link to the blog post, and then it's really easy for them to share it, and then you get links from that. And whereas if there's just that extra Linktree thing in the middle, then it doesn't really help.
It's amazing. Any sort of like what would I call it? Upkeep that people should be doing, like from week to week or month to month on their websites?
Well, obviously blogging is good to do, but confession time. So my calligraphy site that ranks really well, I think I've done 3 blog posts ever, maybe 4 blog posts ever. The reason that blogging works well for SEO is because Google likes fresh content. So it likes to see that you're putting a bit of effort into your site. I often say, if you imagine you went to like a clothes store and you went there and you were like, oh, these clothes are quite nice. And then you went back the week later and it was all the same stuff. And then you were like, oh, okay. So then you went back a month later and it was all the same stuff. You just stop going. And if Google stops going to your site and stops calling you, then you have no chance of ranking higher because it's not ever assessing you. You're just going to slide further down. So blogging is sort of an easy way to keep adding fresh content onto your website and show Google that you've got more stuff to say. But blogging isn't the only way. So I quite often will go onto my site and just tinker. So I just go on.
Tinker
away.
I'll add a paragraph about something, or I'll think, I don't really like the way I've written that. I'm going to rewrite that, or I'm going to change that header, or I'm going to change that title tag.
I guess you're telling Google that something has changed within my website, something has updated, so
that I give
it's
a
alive.
shit. That I'm like, this is a live website. It's not just like a dormant website that I'm just,
almost again like the store analogy that you.
Yeah. So
and there's not much of a difference between a blog post and a page, really. Is there?
There's not.
It's a blog post is a page. A page is a page. It's just new content, isn't it? It's just how you want to display it on your site, whether you want it to sit under a blog post format or whether it's just in your nav or another page on your site.
Exactly. I mean, I would say blog posts I would use more for sort of timely content. Even like a lot of people will use blog posts for like specific weddings. I'm like, just move them onto your site, like have them in your navigation so that people can always find them. Google can always find them. They're always there if they're like your best ones. So you don't have to blog. Blogging is good. Blogging will also help you to rank for sort of question-based keywords. So, you know, if you go into Google and you write in wedding invitations, there's like the people also ask bit that sort of comes up in Google underneath. So I quite often say like play with that a bit and you'll get loads of blog posts ideas that people are actually searching for. So you can start ranking for those things. But it's really about keeping your content as fresh as you can and getting links is like the way to just be working on your SEO ongoing. But quite often people are like, oh, I've got SEO sorted because I'm blogging. And you're like, it's not so. It's not, if you just blog, like that's not going to make your SEO work. You also need to be thinking, well, for your blog post, you need to be thinking about what's my title, what's my description, what's my header, what keyword am I targeting, rather than just like, if I just put any old shite out every week, that's fine. I'm doing SEO. It doesn't necessarily work.
Then can you create a video piece of content for that article? You know, can you?
Yeah, exactly.
Embed a YouTube video into that. You know, they're all kind of ways to strengthen the performance, isn't it, really?
And one blog post, you know, you can put it on your email newsletter and you can do 3 Instagram posts and you can do a Pinterest and it sort of feeds. I'm saying it like I'm doing it. I know this stuff takes time, but so yeah, that's the sort of upkeep. But it's definitely not a do it once and forget about it. It might give you a little bump, but you'll gradually come back down again. So
it's hard to do it all, isn't it?
Oh.
You do, you know, like again, it's like you've obviously put that time in at some point to get your site to where it is, and now your resource has kind of been directed towards helping other people's sites. There's only so much you can physically give to the upkeep of your own site.
I mean, my SEO site, my keywords for my SEO site would be so niche because it's like SEO for wedding businesses. So I decided quite early on that was there as like so people could see my packages, but it wasn't going to be how people were going to find me, because it's more about sort of recommendation and, you know, through the business club, the wedding business club, and sort of networking. So yeah, not so important for my SEO business, but definitely very important for my calligraphy business. So I do a lot of tinkering.
Previously when we were chatting, and even now you sort of like reminded me of it, you said, we're just talking and you said so many different names of people within the industry, and it sounds like you are definitely someone that likes to network. Is that something that comes easily to you, or something that you had to work at and really develop?
I suffer massively from imposter syndrome. Like,
it's the first thing you said when you walked in here.
I was
Very
like,
first thing.
Properly, I was like, he's going to see my hand shaking as I lift my bottle to my mouth. So, I mean, I'm all right sort of once I get there and once I start chatting, like digital networking, like easy, it's fine. But yeah, I do love meeting new people, and I think it's one of the things. So when I worked for the agency, I was in the new business team. That was sort of my role towards the end, was just going and pitching. And I can quite quickly understand what people need, like what their vibe is, what their USP is. So that comes in really useful when I'm chatting to people now. Like, I understand quite quickly who they are. Otherwise, I'm just going to be putting together really generic recommendations for everyone. It would be no good for anyone. So, yeah, I do love meeting new people. And it's part of the reason why I don't work with people ongoing, like monthly, because I'd be quickly full and I could not help any other people because I wouldn't have any time to do it. So yeah, it's nice that you have all these guests and I'm like, work with her, this is great.
Yeah, that's it. That's what I liked and admired about you, and it was very much like, oh yeah, we definitely need to touch upon that point. But no, that sounds amazing. You mentioned really, really quickly workshops that you were doing. How did you start it and how's it going?
The SEO workshops?
Yeah.
They haven't been, they've been all right. But I think people are just, again, I probably don't do enough nurturing of the sort of process leading up to the workshops. So I tend to do a free sort of 30-minute masterclass where I sort of whiz through some bits. But then I think people just get overwhelmed. So I don't know. I'm thinking might turn that workshop into like an evergreen, access when you want sort of course that people, when they're ready, they can go on to. But at the moment, it's sort of focusing more on the working with people on their SEO. So I think people are much more comforted by, I'm going to learn a bit and I'm actually going to get some of it done, which is sort of like feel like they've taken that first step.
Yeah.
So yeah, who knows?
I remember going when I used to work in digital marketing for Boots, and I can remember going on like 2-day SEO conferences on workshops. I was like,
Brighton SEO. That was always like the highlight.
I'm a bit bored, but it does. It's like understanding the basics of it and the foundations of it do stand you in really good stead with your business. I think that's kind of part of the reason why, when I look back on the first 4 or 5 years of my business, why I probably established myself very quickly was because I was blogging weddings.
Yeah.
I was pushing it out to social channels. I was building pages from those blog posts and collating, looking at search terms. So once you've done that groundwork over a period of time, it does pay off.
See, that SEO course came in
useful.
It did come in handy.
It did come in handy.
You were bored, but it came in useful.
Yeah, and I didn't have to pay for that either. Boots paid for that, so that was good.
Yeah, nice. I mean, it's also one of those things, like, I don't know if you remember, it was like a year or two ago, like Facebook services just went.
Yeah.
Down.
You couldn't even complain to your friends because you couldn't use WhatsApp. Like, you were literally just sat like in a hole. And I was just like, it's all right, I'll just find me on Google. It's fine. Like, Instagram could disappear. I mean, unlikely. Well, but you put all your eggs in one basket.
They're still volatile, though. They're still, we talked about it recently about how it's hard to get good traction on Instagram. It feels like really hard to get good traction on Instagram.
Yeah.
Like, you have to be on it all the time. You have to be doing everything that it's asking you to do. It's like there's 1,000,001 things that you need to tick off. It's like, it's exhausting.
Yeah. And now I get quite a lot of leads for the calligraphy business through Google. I'm now sort of using Instagram more as like a portfolio, just like they can go on there to sort of social proof that my work's all right. But I'm not like 3 reels a week, 2 stories a day. Like, it's just as and when. I don't have time. I've got 2 little kids. I don't have time for all that shit. So yeah, it's quite nice because that's just sort of bringing in sort of free leads.
Yeah.
Which is nice.
How do you find the split between the SEO and the calligraphy work? Is it sort of like 50-50 or 60-40?
Money-wise, it's about 50-50 at the moment. I've recently hired someone in on the SEO business that I used to work with at the old agency. So she sort of knows all the same stuff that I know. Also had a baby and left the company. So she's helping me with a lot of the sort of analysis work that takes a lot of time. So that's sort of freeing up time to bring on more clients and do more stationery stuff. So yeah, scary having someone sort of
is that still an ongoing issue in industry? Like mothers having babies and then struggling to go back to the workplace.
Yes, yeah. It's a real, and then you do go back, and then you've got like the mum guilt. That's like, I mean, people don't really talk about dad guilt. Do you get dad guilt? I don't know if that's if it's a thing. No. Side thing. I got really angry watching the Brit Awards the other day because he interviewed someone from Little Mix, and the first thing he said was like, "Oh, where are the kids tonight?" And I was like, "You're not asking all their dads that." Thanks. But yeah, it is a real thing. It's really hard. It's hard when people don't understand like that you have childcare and you need to go. The amount of times I got asked, "Oh, can you just stay an extra 30 minutes?" And I was like, "No, because I literally have 20 minutes. I have to be on one specific train to haul ass to the nursery that I'm paying." I mean, when I had 2 kids in nursery, I earned nothing. It was basically all my money was going on nursery fees. And it was an all right nursery, but I mean, it's a government issue as well. Needs to do more for the whole childcare thing. So but yeah, it was more for me. It was actually more like just a cultural thing, like a lack of understanding. I had no one who understood what I was going through. Everyone talking about what happened on the night out last night, and I was just like, yeah, I was up all night with a baby. But as those people get older and they all start having babies, maybe it'll get better. But
it just feels like it's been like an ongoing thing for so long, and it feels like companies are almost just like lip service, but nothing actually changes.
Yeah. I mean, I was reading today about some 4-day-a-week pilots that some companies that have been doing, which I think will sort of help. Like people like Pregnant Then Screwed, sort of an Instagram account, Mother Pucker. They're all sort of raising awareness, and so hopefully it will get better. By the time my girls maybe have babies, it'll be better. But yeah, it's tough. But working from home, working from home for me, for myself, it solves it to an extent because I don't have the commute, but I find it much harder to switch off.
That's it.
Like I'm sat in the evenings, whereas with the agency work, I could just be like, bye. And then I'd be at home. And if they tried to contact me, I'd be like, nope, you're not paying me. Yeah. I'm not doing it. Whereas now I get like leads through at like 8 and I'm like, do I reply to that? Like I'm putting one child to bed. And
do you set any boundaries?
I'm trying to get better at that.
Okay.
I was saying it helps. I've stopped working off a laptop mostly. I've got like a proper sort of iMac in my studio at the end of the garden, which is helping because I leave everything down there.
Yep.
But then you can get on. I deleted emails from my phone and now I just go onto gmail.com.
Crawling back
and get them on the website. So I'm trying to set more boundaries, but it is tough.
Oh, it always feels like a constant battle, doesn't it? Mm. It's like there's trade-off, isn't it? It's like you've got to work, you've got to be present and respond to things. I can remember when we had James Maxwell on talking about people that were shopping for tables. He's like, if I don't respond there and then when it comes in, like
it's lost business.
It's lost business, and there is that element to it, I think.
But then I also try and think like if I was a shop, like if I'm like a bakery down the road, if someone emails that bakery at 8:00 at night, they're not going to expect a reply then. And actually, a lot of especially for the calligraphy side, they contact me in the evening because they just work during the day. So it's not that they want a reply like there and then. And to be honest, I'm trying to be more like, if I reply the next day and they say they've already gone somewhere else, I probably didn't want them as a client anyway because they're really impatient and they're not going to be like hanging around for me to do designs and different things. So I'm sort of trying to think, well, that's okay, I didn't want them anyway. But to be fair, it rarely happens. Rarely happens if you get back to someone 1 or 2 days later and they go, no, sorry, I've gone somewhere else. So I try and tell myself that a lot and try and not be on Gmail instead of emails. I mean, God, what are we like?
I know we've covered a lot in terms of SEO, but any sort of like free resources that you could recommend for someone that has been listening and they don't even know where to start?
Yes. So I just rant off a load of my favourite tools probably. Log on to Google Search Console. If you have Google Analytics, you can log in that way. And Google Search Console tells you the keywords that you rank for, where you rank. It tells you if there's any issues with your website, although a lot of the time people get in a panic about some things and I'm like, it's fine, don't worry about it.
Everything is red.
I know. Keywords Everywhere, which I've mentioned, which is that plugin that tells you how many people search for keywords. You can use the Google Keyword Planner, but unless you are spending a lot of money on Google Ads, Google Ad Planner, Keyword Planner is really shit. It says this keyword has between 0 to 1,000 searches a month, and you're like, well, that's no good to me because I need to know the exact number. There's a website, I always laugh at the name, called Screaming Frog. And it's basically like a desktop tool, and if you put in your website, it then spits out what all your titles are and your header tags and all that sort of thing.
Just almost like a good audit.
Yeah. Or there's a Chrome extension called the Blue Button, which if you just press that on a website, it tells you what your title and your description is. But also you can see what your competitors are. So if you Google something and you're like, I want to rank for that keyword, have a look at the people that are already ranking, see what their titles are and their headers are and how long their content is, and it's all
see
there.
What your competition is doing.
I also have a free checklist on my website that people can look at that just tells you the different things you should look at. They're the main ones.
No, that's really good. You've listed a lot there.
Things like Ahrefs tell you how many people are linking to you, but I can't remember. That's not free. There might be a free version, but you do have to pay for that.
Yeah.
I think it might give you a 7-day free trial. So if you're in like SEO mode for a day, if you're like, I'm blocking this day for SEO, then again, see who's linking to you, but also see who's linking to all those people that already rank, and see if there's any of those that you can sort of replicate.
I think it's just important, isn't it? If you're wanting to try and tackle SEO, is to just try and break it down into bite-sized chunks, rather than trying to feel like I'm going to have a week where I'm going to just write everything and do it all.
Even I couldn't do a week of SEO.
Actually, just integrating a bit of time every week to go, right, okay, well, I'll just spend a couple of hours on a Tuesday on a blog post. And I always think that the trap that I see in our industry and photographers is that they will often just blog way too many images.
Yeah.
And we're talking like 80, 90, 100 images. And it comes from a place, I think, where photographers are just trying to show their work. And I get that.
Yeah.
Like they want to, I can't pick my favourite images, I'm just going to show them all. Yep. And actually, you kind of need to kill some of them, don't you, really? Yeah. And just go 20. Yeah. 20 is still a lot of images. Like you don't.
Yeah. But if you've got that in like a carousel that people can click around. I mean, I wouldn't do like a long. And
again, I think it comes down to like just remind yourself what the end user's going to expect. Like if you can't convert somebody within them seeing 15 images, there's no chance. There's no point showing them 100. No. Like,
especially if you put your top 15, if they're still not interested after those, like you're not going to sell them with your bottom 20.
Yeah, but it's like, again, it's thinking about the time that it takes to name those images, to alt tag those, to upload them, to tag them, to, it makes it so much more time consuming. Mm-hmm. I think I could probably write a blog post I'd probably write and publish an entire blog post in half an hour. But some photographers will probably spend 3 hours going, I've got 120 images.
Yeah.
And
people also worry about like, I just don't know if my writing's good enough. And I quite often say, like, some people write like really lengthy Instagram posts. They're just like, like you only have to add a few more paragraphs to that and you've got yourself a blog post. Like people seem to be like, again, it's sort of the imposter syndrome, getting in their heads like, I can't possibly write a blog post because I'm not a writer. It's like, just write, it's you, just write as yourself.
Yeah.
And think of it as like just a long Instagram post and
just tell a bit of a story. Like again, if we're looking at it from our point of view of like being in the wedding industry, we've got an amazing story right in front of us with our couples. So you just go, okay, so my approach will be like, I've picked my images, I'm going to look at the images and just see what I just jot down some ideas. Like what happened? Were there any good stories from the day? What was the venue like? What were they wearing? Just piece it. And then just as you write your copy, just tick all those bits off and go, I'm just going to talk about this. And just, it doesn't need to be a huge amount. It's amazing how the paragraphs can quickly rack up if you just sit down and go.
And you've got a couple of images in there, like it's fine. And it's also about not just writing for ranking, because it's the end goal isn't to rank the top of Google. The end goal is to get leads or contacts or jobs. Yeah. So it's not just about getting to the top. It's about, if I get to the top, are people going to want to buy with me? So you need to, sound like yourself and sell your services and talk about your USPs and all those sorts of things. Yeah. Otherwise, what's the point? You're just getting traffic for nothing, which would be really depressing. I think it would actually be worse. I think to get to number one and see no increase in your bookings. Yeah. I think I'd just rather not be there.
Yeah, it's true. We have been talking about SEO quite a lot, but in terms of calligraphy and SEO, we can clearly see that you're passionate about it. Is there one, if you had to pick one, which one would it be?
I mean, I would have to pick the calligraphy just because it feeds my creative soul. Like it's like meditation for me. I just sit down with my pen, the ink flows, and I think
Lou said that, didn't she, when she was in? She talked a very similar way about how it's just an exercise and just a headspace.
Yeah. Because I'm not very good at like meditation, and my mind goes like, what am I cooking for dinner and all that sort of stuff. But when I am doing calligraphy, I don't think about anything else. I don't think about the pile of laundry that I've got in the house or what time's pick up. I quite often I'm like, shit, it's pick up, and I'm like literally have to dump everything and go, because I just go to a different place. So I would have to choose the calligraphy. Sorry, SEO.
No.
I mean, they both go hand in hand really for you. Like, they both serve a really good and valuable purpose for you and your businesses. Like, they both complement each other.
Yeah, definitely. And
because you have a real life example of how your SEO is implemented.
Yeah.
Rather than just going, I know SEO, trust me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Look at what I do.
I rank there. Yeah. And the difference it makes on traffic as well. It's not just like I rank for this random keyword. It's like my traffic is like all the way up, which is nice to see. Sometimes Google puts me below Etsy, which is really annoying. Today on the way here, I was in number 1. It was very satisfying. So yeah.
Do you find that it's something that it's very easily to get obsessed about in terms of like the numbers and everything else, or
it is,
do you find it quite easy to let go?
Once you sniff success in SEO, you're then oh god, like what are the numbers doing? I need to get more. But it's also like the opposite. Like if you're grafting for a year and you've seen nothing, it can be really disheartening.
Yeah.
But it is just about like stick with it, and as long as you're doing the right things, like it will happen. But I
think if you've been grafting for a year and you're not seeing a result, there's probably
if you've not seen any result,
there's probably a fundamental problem, isn't there, with what you're doing?
Yeah. If you've been doing things right, it will happen. And then when you get there, it's like the best. When you just suddenly Google it and you're like, oh my god, and then you're like calling all your friends like, it might just be my personalized search.
Can you search
can you just check? And you're opening incognito windows and you're like, no, this is really happening.
Although the resources out there and anybody can go and do that, you've got to put the time and work in.
Yeah.
And that's it. It's like it's much more common knowledge now, like the best practice. Like it's out there. It's not like it's a mystery like it was maybe sort of 10, 15 years ago. But people that do it are the ones that are just doing it consistently.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was chatting to someone recently and they were saying it's the same on Pinterest. She was like, I've literally been pinning for a year and I'm now starting to see leads and inquiries come through. You've just got to like have faith that you're doing the right thing. And actually just by doing something, you're already way ahead of loads of people in your space, because I can guarantee most of them are not. So
the long game.
Yeah. But then once you're there, it's very unlikely that the next day you're going to be like page 3. Like if you drop a couple of positions, you can see it and then you sort of get back on it and do some more things. So once you're there, it's sort of, there is some comfort in being there. Yeah.
It's amazing. How's the year looking for you? Any exciting projects that you're doing at the moment or coming up?
So obviously I had my my helper that I've got. So she only started in January, so that's quite new, but it's going really well so far. I have quite a controversial year this year, which is that I haven't got like, when people go, what's next? Like what you're doing is not enough. And I was like, do you know what? I'm actually quite happy with how things are.
Yeah.
But I really want to take August off and December off. Craziest months to try and take off. But I figure aim big. Like I'd really like to take those off. And not like last year, sort of building both the businesses, I was like I had zero work-life balance and, mum guilt was sky high, and I just thought I can't carry on like this. So I thought I'm not going to give myself any like super hefty goals this year. Not that I'm not ambitious, but just that I need to focus on me a little bit this year.
That's amazing.
Getting in the gym and, trying to eat right and eat fresh. That's not a very exciting answer.
No, it's really
sorry
good.
Sorry about that.
No, it's really good just to hear going hard at the basic things, isn't it? That's basically what you're saying. Yeah. And that self-care nature, it's needed really. It's fundamental really. So no, that's really
and
good
I feel like I literally need a year of looking after me and making that like a habit and making me not be like the very bottom of the pile. And then next year I'll be like, these are all my grand plans, because I will be just in the habit of looking after myself.
Yeah.
Which I haven't been. I'm sure I'm not the only mum, especially out there, that is not doing that.
I think everybody's having that. Everyone has those battles, don't they?
Yeah.
Do you want to go for the last question?
Yeah, I can do. Yeah. If you could rewind the clock, and talk to 14-year-old Stacey, what would your words of wisdom be?
I was going to say, do what you want and not what people tell you to do. But then when I think that, actually it's ended me in quite a good place. So, you know, but, you know, I could have done drama and then be like Oscar-winning actress. But I often say to my husband about the kids, I'm like, they can just do what they want. Like, as long as they're happy, I really don't care. I mean, I think I was just of that generational stage where I was the first person that could go to uni. So my mum and dad were like, you must do something amazing, be an accountant and earn loads of money. And it's just, it's not about the money. It's about being happy. So yeah, I'd just say more like, be strong and do what you want, not what you're told to do.
It's amazing.
Yeah, amen to that.
Where can people find you?
So I am on Instagram at SoEngaged or at SoCalligraphy UK. So calligraphy's annoyingly benched.
I know we've covered a lot of SEO stuff, but we have only also scratched the surface, haven't we?
Yeah,
it feels like
really have.
There's a lot of knowledge there to be tapped into. So if anybody is kind of looking to reach out to Stacey, then please do. You know, there's so much more there to tap into, isn't there? You've got some knowledge, and that's been great. So thank you so much for sharing it openly and providing some sort of. I'm sure people have been busy at wherever they are, home or wherever, just scribbling things down. She said that. I'll do that as well. So no, thank you very much for your time.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Hugely appreciated.
Yeah, you've been amazing.
And like, we're always learning, aren't we? Even I've taken some things away. I'm going to go and do that. I'm going to get rid of Linktree and probably need to get back on with blogging.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Stacey.
Thank you.
Thank you, the audience.
Yeah, do all those sharey things.
Yes, clickety things.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Bye.